Revealed, my husband's shocking ultimatum: discover the 5 life-changing words that set me free. The air was thick with tension that evening. As Sarah stood in the cramped kitchen, the scent of overcooked pasta wafting from the pot, she could feel the weight of her world pressing down on her. Bills stacked high on the counter echoed the mounting anxiety that had become their daily companion. The factory that supported their small-town dreams was crumbling. Layoffs loomed, and the gossip in Maplewood grew more deafening. Just as she thought she couldn't take any more, Mark stormed through the door, his face shadowed by frustration. "You need to believe in yourself," he exploded, the 5 words ricocheting off the walls like a thunderclap. It was an ultimatum that shattered her complacency and jolted her to the core. Those words unlocked something buried deep within Sarah. For years, she'd been the dutiful mother, the supportive wife, but who was she beneath it all? At that moment, tears blurred her vision, and she realized that while she dedicated her life to her family, her dreams had grown dormant, smothered beneath the weight of expectations. As the days passed, the heaviness in her heart transformed into a flicker of hope. She decided to investigate the community job training program advertised at the local center. It sounded promising, empowering, even a word she hadn't dared to embrace for ages. But self-doubt crept in. What would the neighbors think? Those whispers would surely drown out her aspirations. Nevertheless, she hesitated, intrigued yet terrified, standing at the edge of change. Then came the day. With shaky hands, Sarah swallowed her fear and signed up. The first class was a whirlwind of inspiration, but the thrill was quickly chased by setbacks. Every rejection email was a dagger, each failure at turning ideas into successes weighed heavily on her fragile spirit. Mark's frustration flared, their evenings filled with charged silences and cold meals. "Don't you see? You're chasing dreams while I'm trying to keep us afloat," he would say, his brow wrinkling with concern as he paced their modest living room. Every quarrel layered another piece of doubt onto her quest, yet deep within, there was a growing fire. A pivotal community meeting was looming, an event Sarah dreaded yet felt drawn to. As she stood there, looking at the faces in the crowd, neighbors, mothers, and friends, she felt the collective weight of expectation pressing down. Just as she found her voice, ready to share her newfound vision, the anxiety in the room swirled around like a storm, pushing against her ideals. The crowd seemed ready with murmurs of skepticism. Would they reject her dreams? Mark's alarmed face flashed through her mind, adding to the pressure. But then, a moment of clarity slammed into her. This was her chance to reclaim who she was. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding against her chest as whispered doubts clashed with her swelling courage. With every step towards that podium, she felt the weight of her ambitions rise. This was not just about her, it was about redefining who she was meant to be, and she wasn't going to let fear snuff out the spark of possibility. As she spoke, the energy in the room electrified, leaving her and the community holding their breath, wondering if her tomorrow could truly shine brighter. What would happen when the words left her lips, the words that could change everything? As Sarah stood at the podium, the crowd's expectant silence was almost deafening. She felt the heat of their gazes, a tangible mix of curiosity and doubt. Had she built this moment up too much in her head? The stakes felt impossibly high. This wasn't just a speech, it was a piece of her heart. "Everyone," she began, her voice faltering at first, but growing stronger with every word, "I want to talk about believing in ourselves." She locked eyes with a middle-aged woman in the front row, someone she recognized from the grocery store. "I've been afraid of judgment, afraid of failure, afraid of stepping outside the roles I've been given." The crowd remained still. She could hear a pin drop. "I've been a mother and a wife and have poured all my energy into those roles. But I realized I've been neglecting a part of myself, my dreams, my ambitions, the person I used to be before life got complicated. Her heart raced. She was finally saying the things that had been trapped inside her for far too long. I started a job training program, she continued. I wanted to learn new skills to find my footing. Yet, every rejection I faced shattered my confidence. It felt like I was trying to build a bridge with no support. She glanced at Mark, who sat stiffly at the back. He hadn't looked at her since she started speaking. But then I thought about the words that sparked a change in me. Believe in yourself. If I could muster that belief, perhaps I could inspire others to do the same. She could see glimmers of interest flickering in the audience's eyes. I'm here today not just to share my journey, but to invite all of you to share yours. We all have dreams buried beneath the surface, and it's time we dig them out together. A low murmur swept through the crowd, and she took advantage of this moment, pushing past her fears. What if we leaned on each other through this? What if we formed a community where our voices matter? A man from the back shouted, "That's what we need. A place to inspire one another." A ripple of agreement followed, and for the first time, Sarah felt a surge of connection, however small. Encouraged, she pressed onward. Each of you has a story worth telling. Let us champion those stories and, in doing so, unearth the dreams lying dormant within us. Her pulse quickened as she witnessed hesitant smiles amongst familiar faces. Mark remained still, but for the first time, she felt free. The burden of his discontent became a mere whisper beneath the thunder of newfound community. Today, I ask, will you stand with me? Sarah finished, her heart pounding with sincerity as she addressed the room. Let us create a change together. Loud applause erupted, washing over her like a wave, chaos and joy crashing in unison. For the first time, Sarah embraced the uncertain beauty that accompanied this transformation she had started. Yet, just as the excitement bubbled to the surface, she noticed Mark get up, irritation flickering in his eyes. He turned away, striding out of the hall with purpose. Confusion flooded her as the crowd continued cheering. Did he refuse to believe in her vision? Her moment of triumph threatened to dissolve into worry as she scanned the room, torn between celebration and concern. Would he ever understand? As applause echoed, she felt the urgency of her shifting reality tightening, hinting at challenges not yet faced. The community was awakening, but what was about to break in her home? With the weight of that question lingering in her heart, she realized that this was just the beginning not only of her journey towards self-discovery, but of navigating the uncertain waters of her marriage. It dawned on her that she had stepped into a larger story, one that demanded courage not only from herself, but from everyone involved. What would she do next if the support she craved at home began to vanish? As the applause faded, Sarah felt the warmth of the crowd's support wrap around her like a comforting blanket. Yet Mark's sudden exit cast a shadow over her triumph. What had she done wrong? The adrenaline that surged through her body began to give way to anxiety as she searched the room. Her friends approached, beaming with excitement. "That was incredible, Sarah," one exclaimed, pulling her into a tight hug. "You're so brave." The compliments made her smile, but the gleam in their eyes paled in comparison to the uncertainty gnawing at her. "Thanks," she managed to say, yet her heart raced with concern. "Did you see Mark? He left." One of her friends, Jenna, understood. "He'll come around. It's a big change, you know? Give him time." Sarah nodded, but the words felt hollow. The more time that passed, the more she worried that time might not bridge the gap. Maybe for Mark, change felt as uncomfortable as it did exhilarating for her. She wanted him to join her in this journey, yet the more she celebrated her newfound voice, the more distant he seemed. She remained caught between the joy of the moment and the weight on her heart. As the room gradually emptied, she spotted a familiar face, Mrs. Abernathy, the middle-aged woman from the grocery store. She approached Sarah, her eyes gleaming with understanding and warmth. "I could feel your passion. It's inspiring," she said softly. "Thank you," Sarah replied, her throat tightening. I want to help people, but it feels so fragile, you know?" And then she trailed off, uncertain if she should confide in this woman. Mrs. Abernathy's expression turned serious. Sometimes those we love struggle to accept our changes. They want to hold on to the past. But you have to stay true to yourself, dear. Your courage can inspire others, including him. With a deep sigh, Sarah processed the woman's words. Maybe courage was not just about standing up to a crowd, but facing her own life at home as well. After the event, Sarah returned to the quiet of their house, the silence echoing her thoughts. Mark was nowhere in sight. She found a cold cup of coffee on the kitchen counter, remnants of a rushed breakfast. Her pulse quickened. Was he upset because she was stepping out? Because she was revealing parts of herself he had never seen? All those years spent being the person everyone wanted her to be had come to this crossroad. Was he prepared to lose the woman he thought he knew? Mark, she called out, her voice barely breaking through the stillness. A moment passed, thick with the weight of his absence. But soon she heard footsteps approaching. He emerged from the hallway, his face a mask of frustration. Sarah, we need to talk. Even in that moment, a flicker of hope sparked within her. This could be the conversation that would expose their truth, the unveiling of fears surrounding her new path. What is it? She asked, her heart racing in anticipation of what was to come. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm worried. What does this mean for us? For our family? The complex knot in her stomach twisted tighter. Was she still supposed to be the person he wanted, or could they redefine what us meant? But as she stood facing him, she felt the weight of the ultimatum that hung between them. Mark, I need you to understand, she began, ready to fight for the change she believed in. But could he hear her over the noise of his concerns? The conversation that lay ahead felt like standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to leap into the unknown. Everything depended on their next words. Would this be a moment that brought them closer or pushed them further apart? As she steadied her breath, Sarah searched Mark's face for any sign of what he was truly feeling. The creases of anxiety etched in his brow only deepened her resolve. I need to find my voice, Mark, she said, her voice shaking but firm. I don't want to lose who I am in the process of being who you need me to be. He stared at her, that flicker of hope she'd felt moments ago dimming with each passing second. I'm not trying to hold you back, Sarah. I don't know how to navigate this change. This isn't what I signed up for. The words struck her like a cold slap. It was as if he was bracing for the fallout, fearing the woman standing before him was a stranger. She felt naked under his gaze, her layers of self-discovery exposed. Are you saying you want me to go back to how things were? Sarah asked, her heart pounding against her ribcage. To the person who smiled and nodded, but never spoke her truth? Mark shifted uncomfortably, his expression warring doubt and frustration. It's not that simple. What about the life we built together? Our kids? Our plans? I'm scared, Sarah. What if this change pulls us apart? His fear resonated within her, a mirrored echo of her own worries. But she knew deep down that living in fear would only suffocate them both. This change won't destroy us, Mark. I'm still the same person, I just want to be more. For you, for me, for our kids. His gaze flickered to the ground, seemingly grappling with how they could move forward. But what if I can't handle this version of you? Even if I want to? The admission hung like a thick fog in the air, choking the space between them. Watching him wrestle with such a raw truth made her heart ache. She felt his love, but it was tangled with worry, a knot they'd have to untie together. Maybe, she said slowly, we should accept that it's okay to be scared. Change is hard. But it's also necessary. If we don't face this together, we'll lose everything. There was an undeniable weight to her words. Silence felt like a blanket as they stood in the dim light of the kitchen, hearts thudding in unison like distant drums. Finally, Mark looked up, meeting her gaze with a flicker of resolve. Can we find a way to redefine us? I want to support you, Sarah, but I need your help just as much. I can't do this alone, and I don't want to pretend it's easy. The tension in Sarah eased slightly. I don't expect it to be easy. But that's why we're in this together, right? Mark nodded, though hesitation still danced in his eyes. I care about you, about us, more than anything. Just can we take it slow? One step at a time? Yes, Sarah breathed, feeling a sense of lightness wash over her. We can make this work. We'll figure it out as we go. As a hesitant smile began to form on his lips, she felt a spark ignite within her. Maybe they could navigate this together after all. They embraced, their hearts gradually harmonizing after the storm that had threatened to tear them apart. In that moment, Sarah realized that this journey was not just hers alone. It belonged to both of them, requiring trust and patience. Yet, even as they held on to each other, doubts still lurked in the shadowed corners of her mind. Would her newfound voice mean losing part of her past? Was there a chance that Mark would never be fully on board with her transformation? That night, as Sarah lay in bed next to Mark, sleep eluded her. Questions swirled in her mind like autumn leaves on the wind, bringing with them a mix of hope and fear. What if the road ahead tested their love in ways they never anticipated? As she stared into the darkness, the future felt like a tightrope walk, thrilling yet fraught with uncertainty. Would she have the strength to keep her balance when the winds of doubt blew strong? But one thing was clear, the next steps would change everything, for better or worse. Morning light filtered softly through the curtains, casting gentle patterns on the bedroom wall. Sarah lay awake, staring up at the ceiling, trying to sort through her jumbled thoughts. Beside her, Mark's rhythmic breathing was a reminder of their shared existence, yet she felt miles away from him. She could almost hear the unanswered questions echoing in her heart. As the warmth enveloped her, she couldn't shake off the heaviness of uncertainty. What would more mean in practice? Every time she imagined asserting herself, her mind conjured images of pushback, of Mark's hesitation layered over his love. Would he ever fully accept this version of her? Determined not to dwell in fear, she sat up, the sheets slipping off her shoulders. Today felt different. It was a new day and perhaps a stepping stone. She glanced back at Mark, who still slept peacefully. With a soft smile, she wondered how she could get through to him, fully make him believe that this journey wasn't a threat to their family, but a chance to strengthen it. She quietly slipped out of bed and padded toward the kitchen. The comforting smell of coffee brewing greeted her, and she found solace in the small, routine gestures of the morning. Yet, as she eagerly poured her first cup, a thought struck her: if she was going to embrace change, it couldn't just be about her. They needed to have deeper conversations, create space for both of their voices. Just then, she heard tiny footsteps approach. Their youngest daughter, Lily, emerged with her sleepy eyes wide open. "Mommy?" she croaked. "Hey, sweet girl," Sarah replied, kneeling to hug her. The warmth of her daughter filled her with fuel. "How about some breakfast?" In those moments, as they cooked together and chatted about pancakes and syrup, Sarah felt a sense of grounding. She thought of how her voice mattered not just for her but for her children as well. They were watching, absorbing everything, and she wanted to model authenticity for them. It was crucial. When Mark finally joined them, still in his pajama bottoms, the morning felt different. His hair was tousled, his smile warm yet tinged with lingering apprehension. Sarah felt a stab of resolve. This was her moment to foster openness. "Mark," she started quietly, capturing his attention as he poured himself a cup of coffee. "Can we talk more about what we discussed last night?" His expression shifted to one of cautious curiosity. "Sure," he replied, sitting at the kitchen table across from her. "I know you're worried," she continued, "but I want to hear your thoughts. This change, it impacts all of us. We can work through it, but only if we both share what we need." Mark hesitated, his fingers nervously toying with the cup. "I guess I've just been struggling with the idea that I might not recognize you anymore. Maybe that's the point?" Sarah challenged gently. "What if you end up loving the person I'm becoming? The real me?" He chuckled softly, the corner of his mouth turning up. "You always were good at challenging me." "I just want us to be on the same page," she insisted. "Can we promise to talk openly, no matter how hard it gets?" He sighed heavily, the weight of the conversation settling between them. "All right. I promise. But can we also agree to seek help? I'll be honest. Sometimes I feel lost, and maybe a professional could help us navigate this." Relief washed over Sarah. They were already taking steps together. "Absolutely, I think that's a great idea. We can find someone together." Mark nodded, and for the first time in days, Sarah felt a glimmer of hope. As breakfast wrapped up and the kids began to chatter about their plans for the day, Sarah realized they were on the brink of something transformative. Their fears were still there, but now, instead of shadows looming over their relationship, they were becoming a shared journey of understanding. Still, the questions lingered, like distant storms on the horizon. Would this newfound communication be enough to withstand the challenges ahead? As they packed lunches together, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if they were truly ready for the depths they would explore. With Mark by her side, each day felt like an unfolding page of unknowns. Could they balance love with the complexities of change? Tomorrow would bring clarity or new doubts. But one thing was certain, they had taken a vital step together, and Sarah was ready for whatever lay ahead. The afternoon sun filtered through the living room window, creating a warm glow that gradually chased away the morning's worries. Sarah felt lighter, riding on the waves of commitment they had made that morning. She moved about the house, her heart edging toward optimism as she tackled the mess of toys scattered across the floor. Lily joined her, scooping up her stuffed animals and humming a soft tune, while their elder daughter Mia stood by the kitchen counter, doodling in her sketchbook. Sarah's eyes danced from one girl to the other, each filled with their own world of creativity and innocence. She relished this moment, the comfort of their laughter echoing through the house, as if it were a protective shield against the uncertainties ahead. "Mommy, can we go to the park after dinner?" Lily chirped, her big eyes sparkling with hope. "That sounds like a great idea. We could pack a picnic," Sarah replied, grinning. The thought of sharing laughter and joy at the playground felt revitalizing, much like the fresh breeze wafting through the open window. As thoughts of the evening plans danced in her mind, Sarah's optimism wavered slightly, replaced with a shadow of her earlier fear. What if Mark had second thoughts? What if the weight of yesterday's conversation conditioned his feelings? A shiver of doubt skittered down her spine. Stirring herself into action, she refocused on Lily's vibrant world. Just as she began to forget her worries, the front door creaked open, revealing Mark with a look of uncertainty written across his face. He stepped inside, slightly out of breath and holding a bouquet of wildflowers. "Hey there, family," he said, but the energy in his voice was hesitant, as if he still carried the weight of their earlier discussion. "Look what Dad brought us," Sarah exclaimed, clapping her hands together. The flowers were vibrant yellows and purples, nature bursting into the room. "They're beautiful, don't you think?" Mia glanced up from her drawings, a quizzical expression forming on her face. "Are we having a special dinner or something?" she asked, a hint of suspicion coloring her voice. Mark chuckled softly, handing the bouquet to Sarah. "Just thought I'd brighten your day, that's all." Yet his gaze wandered, looking lost in thought despite the flowers in his wife's hands. He took a seat at the kitchen table, rubbing his temples as if battling an invisible struggle. "Everything okay?" Sarah asked, her pulse quickening. She set the flowers down, the vibrant colors suddenly feeling like a distraction. "You seem a bit off?" Mark hesitated, his brow furrowing. "It's been a long day. A lot on my mind, you know?" Dread began to creep in. "You're not second-guessing the idea of getting help, are you?" "No," he replied quickly. "It's not that I just wonder if we're ready for what we'll uncover. The idea of change, it feels daunting." Sarah felt her heart race. "But we made a commitment. We can't let fear hold us back, right?" "Right," but he paused, and the silence hung between them like a heavy curtain. "What is it?" she pressed, sensing the fragility of the moment. The wildflowers seemed to wilt in that air thick with unspoken fear. "Okay, I need to be honest." Mark shifted in his chair, his hands gripping the table. The very air crackled around them with an anxious energy. "I want to move forward, but there's something I need from you. Something that feels crucial for us both." "What do you mean?" Sarah's pulse quickened, teetering between excitement and apprehension. Mark took a deep breath, his voice steady, yet it carried the heaviness of impending change. "I need you to promise me, no matter what unfolds, no matter how hard it gets, you won't pull away from me. I can't lose you again." With those words hanging in the air, the truth started to unravel. Following the journey meant exposing fears they both held within. A cosmic shift was upon them, and Sarah felt the weight of the question deepen. Were they truly ready for everything the future might reveal? As Sarah met Mark's gaze, something ancient and turbulent stirred inside her. A realization washed over her like a tidal wave, reminding her that the journey they were on was destined to reshape not just their bond, but their very selves. "Promise," she murmured, the echo sending shivers of both thrill and dread into the room. But as that promise hung unspoken in the golden light, Sarah couldn't help but wonder what they would unearth next, what other hidden truths would surface in their quest for authenticity. The air felt electric, charged with possibilities. Sarah's heart raced, each beat a reminder of what she had just committed to. She could sense Mark's eyes on her, searching for reassurance, for a lifeline to hold as they ventured into the unknown. The wildflowers between them, once a symbol of hope, now felt like a bridge to uncertainty. "Let's lay it all out on the table," she declared, determination flooding her voice. "No more hiding. What are we really afraid of?" Mark leaned back, his expression softening. "I guess it feels like we're standing on the edge of a cliff, and if we take a step forward, we could fall. But I also know there's something beautiful waiting on the other side." "I want to see that beauty too," Sarah replied, her own fear mingling with excitement. They were both aware of the invisible walls between them, built over years of unspoken fears and silent struggles. It was time to dismantle those walls, brick by brick. The children's laughter floated in from the living room, a sweet reminder of what they were fighting for. "Okay," Mark said, the determination in his eyes igniting something within her. "Let us talk about everything. The past, the future, our dreams." As the sun dipped lower, casting shadows over the room, Sarah opened her heart wide. "I've been scared too, Mark. Scared of losing you, yes, but scared of facing what we've ignored for so long. I want to crawl into that mess together, even if it's uncomfortable." His hand reached across the table, fingers brushing against hers. The simple touch sparked a fire of hope. "Together then," he murmured, and in that moment, a renewed promise was forged, one that wasn't just about sticking together, but also about facing the storm head-on. "Remember the night we first met?" Sarah asked, her eyes sparkling at the fond memory. "We talked about our dreams. You wanted to travel the world, and I wanted to build a home filled with love. What happened to those dreams?" "We got lost in routine," Mark sighed. "I think we mistook stability for happiness. But those dreams, they still exist, don't they?" "Absolutely," she replied. "They're still in us, waiting to burst free." But just as they began to peel back layers of their emotions, and as light began to break through the darkness, the familiar chime of the phone shattered the moment. With reluctance, Mark reached for it, glancing at the screen. "It's my mom," he said, a flicker of concern crossing his face. Sarah felt an unsettling shift in the atmosphere. "I should take it." "Of course," she whispered, a twinge of anxiety twisting in her stomach. Mark stepped into the hallway, leaving Sarah to sit in the aftermath of their conversation. Every tick of the clock felt magnified. She craved what had just begun between them, but knew that outside pressures had a way of interrupting even the most profound promises. The laughter of Lily and Mia echoed into the hallway, pulling Sarah back into the present. She rose, easing into the living room to take in the moment, her daughters oblivious to the weight of their parents' words. As she joined them, the festivities of the day washed over her. But the warmth was tinted with uncertainty. Mark's voice trailed back into the room. The conversation with his mother wouldn't last long, but Sarah sensed the looming storm brewing just outside their sanctuary. What if this was the beginning of a connection reborn, only to be derailed by the life they were living? What awaited them when Mark returned? Would their sunshine really last, or was there more to confront? Her chest tightened at the thought, an echo of the fear they had vowed to face together. Just then, Mark re-entered, his face clouded by concern. "We need to talk," he said, and in his tone, Sarah heard the unmistakable urgency of change. Her heart dropped. What had happened on the other end of that line? They had just brushed against a revelation, but now it felt as if they were teetering on the brink of something more profound, and she was terrified of the depth they might plunge into next. Mark stepped in, the door frame framing his posture, thick with an urgency that felt too heavy for the moment. Sarah's heart picked up pace, desperate to understand what had taken place during those short minutes. "What is it?" she asked, her voice small, almost swallowed by the weight in the air. Their daughters, still in playful oblivion, continued to giggle in the next room, completely unaware of the tremors rolling through their parents' world. "I need you to hear me, Sarah." His words were slow, deliberate, as if he were calculating each one before letting it slip into the space between them. "My mom, she wants us to come over tomorrow. There's something she needs to tell us." Don't let this be about the kids, Sarah thought. Somehow she felt that this conversation was tied to the calling, an invisible thread linking them to the unresolved issues that had piled up between them like dust. "What kind of something?" Mark glanced away, his gaze drifting to the floor. "It's about the family house and the future. She's worried about her health and she's asking me to take over, to make some decisions." Decisions? The word felt loaded. "What decisions?" "I thought you two were okay." "She's been feeling anxious," he said, running his hand through his hair, a move Sarah had seen countless times when things got tough. "She wants to downsize, perhaps move into a retirement community, but she won't do it unless I promise to step up with the family finances." The implications of his words swirled around her, the gravity of responsibility weighing her down. "Mark, I know that this is important, but what does it mean for us? Our dreams? Our plans?" He swallowed hard, a flicker of pain passing through his eyes. "I don't know. I'm torn. I want to be there for her, and I want to care for the kids, but I also want what we talked about, the dreams, the life we imagined. What if I can't have both?" The fear in his voice mirrored her own. She had clutched tightly to the hope of renewal, yet now it felt like a delicate bubble on the verge of popping. "We can figure this out," she urged, trying to find the right mix of strength and reassurance. "We always have. You're not alone in this." But he began, but she cut him off. "No buts. If you take on this burden alone, it will crush you," she said quietly but firmly. "This doesn't have to be a choice between family and our life together. We can do both, but we have to face this as a team." Mark looked at her, his expression softening. "It's just, I feel this weight, this pressure, and I don't want to lose sight of us. I don't want to pull away." In that moment, a sense of understanding bloomed. They were both hovering over the cliff, staring down into the possibilities, but neither of them had to jump alone. "Then don't." She reached out, finding his hand still warm as she squeezed it. "Let us take each challenge as a step closer to our dreams. We'll figure out the family stuff together just like we always have." He took a deep breath, as if sorting through a puzzle that suddenly started to make sense. The relief flickered across his face, but tension still threaded through the air. "Can we really do this?" "Yes," she said, conviction thick in her voice. "I believe we can." Their connection felt lighter now, yet the world outside seemed unyielding. The urgency that had touched their conversation lingered still, casting shadows that could easily return if they let them. "What if your mom's news is just the tip of the iceberg?" Sarah asked suddenly, her voice rising a bit, the knot tightening in her stomach. "What if there are more layers to this we don't see yet?" Mark nodded, a shadow crossing his eyes, but hope twinkled there too. "Then we face it together." But even as they spoke of unity, a small voice in the back of Sarah's mind questioned how deep the cracks lay within their house of dreams. Would this latest call for family duty unravel everything they had begun to weave anew? "Let us go in and face the girls," Mark said, nodding toward their daughters. "They'll help remind us of what matters most." As they stepped into the laughter and chaos, Sarah glanced back at Mark. "But we can't forget about us in all this, okay?" "Promise," he whispered, squeezing her hand once more before stepping into the light of the living room. That night, as sleep eluded Sarah, she couldn't shake the feeling that their journey was just beginning. Would the decisions they faced tomorrow bring them closer or pull them apart? The road ahead twisted with uncertainty, and she had to wonder, were they truly ready for what awaited them? The morning sun spilled through the kitchen window, filling the room with a golden light that felt oddly deceptive. Sarah busied herself with breakfast, trying to keep her mind occupied. The scent of pancakes wafted through the air, but they did little to soothe the butterflies fluttering relentlessly in her stomach. Today was the day they were to meet Mark's mom, and with it, The weight of anticipation sat like a stone on her chest. "Mommy, can we have extra syrup?" One of the girls chirped from the table, her pigtails bobbing as she reached for the small pitcher. "Sure, sweetie," Sarah replied, forcing a smile. It was hard to find joy in the simple moments today when the shadow of uncertainty loomed large. She glanced at Mark, who was quietly sipping coffee, the cup cradled in his hands like a lifeline. His brows were furrowed, deep in thought, likely contemplating the same fears that plagued her. "Are you ready?" she finally asked, breaking the silence. He looked up, the hint of a smile tugging at his lips, but it didn't reach his eyes. "As ready as I'll ever be." Before they could delve deeper, the girls broke into a fit of giggles, momentarily drawing their parents' attention away from the heaviness of the day. Sarah's heart warmed as she watched them. Moments like these reminded her of the life they built, a life full of joy and laughter, but one that teetered on the edge of a precipice. After breakfast, Mark headed upstairs to get dressed. Sarah watched him disappear into the hallway, her heart racing. She knew they needed to put on a brave face today, but the walls felt thin and fragile. The very foundations of their family seemed to resonate with an undercurrent of doubt. "Mommy, is Grandma coming today?" her youngest asked, tugging at her sleeve. Sarah knelt to her daughter's height, taking a deep breath. "Yes, honey. Grandma is going to tell us something very important." "What kind of important?" The girl tilted her head, her innocence refreshing but achingly bittersweet. "I'm not sure yet. Sometimes, grown-ups have tough things to talk about," she answered gently. "But everything will be okay. You'll see." Mark re-emerged, looking more composed but still uneasy. He reached for her hand, squeezing it firmly, an anchor in that swirling sea of apprehension. "Let us do this," he said, determination threading through his voice. "Together." As the family piled into the car, Sarah's mind raced with possibilities. What if Mark's mom was right? What if she needed them to carry burdens they weren't ready to shoulder? It felt like everyone around her had their lives meticulously mapped out while hers felt like a tangled web. Driving toward the familiar home, a mix of nostalgia and dread churned in her stomach. The house loomed closer, its brick facade both warm and daunting. Sarah's hands tightened around the steering wheel as they pulled into the driveway. "I'm here with you," Mark whispered, his voice breaking through her thoughts. He took a deep breath, and together they shared a moment of quiet resolve before stepping out of the car. The front door swung open just as they approached, revealing Mark's mother, her expression serious yet soft. "Thank you for coming," she said, her voice trembling just slightly. Sarah felt a chill creep down her spine. Before she could respond, Mark's mother gestured for them to come inside, her eyes already brimming with unspoken emotions. As they stepped over the threshold, Mark turned to Sarah, uncertainty flooding his gaze. "No matter what she says, I know. We'll face it together," she replied with conviction, though a tremor in her voice hinted at her own doubt. Inside, family photos lined the walls, but today, they felt more like ghosts of a past she wasn't sure would remain intact. What awaited them in this living room steeped in history? And would the unveiling of the family's future leave them scattered like fragments of shattered glass? Just as she was about to voice her thoughts, Mark's mother's voice cut through the silence. "There's something I need to share." The room seemed to hold its breath, fear and anticipation hanging thick in the air. And just then, Sarah realized, every moment counted. Would the conversation ahead unite them or unravel the very fabric of their family? Mark's mother's voice trembled, pulling Sarah away from her spiraling thoughts. "I've been feeling unwell," she paused, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "It's time for me to venture into a new chapter." The words landed like a brick in the quiet room. Sarah's heart raced. What did that new chapter mean for them? "Mom, what are you saying?" Mark stepped forward, concern washing over his features. "I need to move into a retirement community. I can't manage this house on my own anymore," she said softly, looking down at the worn rug under her feet. Shock rippled through the air, settling heavily between them. Sarah glanced at Mark, who looked like a deer caught in headlights, conflicted and drawn between his mother's needs and their own aspirations. "Mom," he started, the words thick in his throat. What about the plans we made? The family get-togethers? There's something else, Mark's mother interrupted. I understand it means more changes than you anticipated. I may need your help with finances. We can't afford to keep the house, but I want to ensure you don't have to carry this burden alone. Fear crept back into the room. Sarah could feel it crawling under her skin. Mark was already grappling with their dreams clashing against duty. Would this news sink him deeper into that quicksand? So, Mark said, his voice shaky. You mean we're taking on the house as financial responsibilities if you move? We'll have to cut expenses? His mom nodded, wiping her tears. I won't let you drown. I promise to help however I can. In that moment, a new understanding began to dawn in Sarah. Change, no matter how daunting, could also bring opportunity. Maybe this would unite them, shifting their focus away from the individual struggles they'd been grappling with. Maybe, just maybe, they could channel this fear into building a new life brick by brick. Mark, she said, stepping closer to him. I know this is a lot. But just like we promised each other, we face it together. He looked at her, and she could see doubt battling with hope in his eyes. Just give me some time to think about it all, he replied, the weight of responsibility bearing down. Mom, Sarah interjected, her voice steady. How do you envision this? What can we do to help you and support our family? Mark's mother looked surprised. You're right. I want to keep the family feeling alive. We could have Sunday dinners, start a weekly game night. I want this house to remain a source of warmth. It can be, Mark replied slowly, but it'll require collaboration. Our dreams can live alongside your new chapter. The room hung in a thoughtful silence, and Sarah knew they were at a pivotal moment, the intersection of worry and possibility. Let us create a plan, Sarah suggested, her heart racing with excitement. We can talk about how to smoothly transition. You won't be alone, and neither will we. We're in this together. Mark nodded, the weight of concern lifting just a little. Mark's mother smiled, relief washing over her face. Sarah's right, she said. We can all talk things through. It won't be easy, but with communication, we can refresh our family ties and avoid the struggles I faced with your father. With trembling hands, Mark reached for Sarah's, squeezing it tight. In that moment, the familial connection began to weave itself anew, with threads of shared dreams and supportive hearts. As the conversation unfolded, they began to navigate the waters of their responsibilities and hopes for the future. Each word felt like a gentle nudge forward, a shared understanding that change didn't have to mean losing what they loved. Before they knew it, laughter echoed through the room. As they discussed ideas for family gatherings and the joyous moments they could still capture, a warmth enveloped them. It was proof that they could build something beautiful from this transition. Dinner every Sunday sounds perfect, Mark said, a glimmer of that old light returning to his eyes. And maybe a family road trip to a national park. Sarah added enthusiastically, letting herself dream boldly for a moment. I'm in on that. Mark's mother chuckled, wiping away her tears. As chatter filled the room, Sarah felt the energy shift. The uncertainty didn't vanish, but it felt lighter, as if the storm of emotions was beginning to clear. When they finally wrapped up their meeting, it was a new understanding forged between them, a shared journey accepted with open arms. Mark pulled Sarah close, whispering, "Thank you." For the first time today, hope bloomed freely between them. Yes, tomorrow would bring challenges and adjustments, but now they would face it as a united front. Walking back to the car, Sarah realized this was just a new beginning, a new chapter for all of them. She felt empowered, her heart swelling with renewed commitment. They would reclaim their dreams while supporting their family ties, transforming uncertainty into unity. As they drove home, with the girls chattering happily in the back seat, Sarah couldn't help but smile. They were stepping into tomorrow together, bound by purpose, optimism, and the beautiful uncertainty of life. And as they drove past the familiar streets of Maplewood, Sarah understood one undeniable truth. This was their moment. Now it was time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to keep up with these transformative journeys. Don't miss what's next. Leave a like now to drive this community forward. Your support matters. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings on this ending. What inspired you most? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us grow this family together.